A brief history of GPS.
$1.4 trillion. That is the massive economic benefit GPS satellites have generated since the 1980s. Today, we're diving straight into how a handful of early space race experiments transformed into the invisible engine powering our entire modern world.
Section 1. The Invisible Trillion-Dollar Tech.
Section 2. Child of the Space Race.
Okay, so the rapid evolution of satellite navigation actually kicked off back in 1957 when Russia launched Sputnik, the very first satellite to successfully orbit Earth. By 1960, the U.S. fired back with Transit, which was the world's first global satellite navigation system specifically designed for Navy submarines. And then, just 3 years later, in 1963, the Aerospace Corporation started studying a much more expansive concept called Project 621B.
The physics behind all this started with one massive realization. When Sputnik was orbiting the planet, scientists on the ground noticed something fascinating. The frequency of the satellite's radio signals actually increased as it approached and decreased as it moved away. We call this the Doppler effect. They figured, hey, if a satellite's location can be pinpointed from the ground using this frequency shift, the exact reverse has to be true too. A ground receiver's location could be figured out just by measuring its distance from a satellite in space. It was an absolute game changer.
Fast forward to the early 1970s, and engineers are out there actively testing transmitters for Project 621B. Dr. Ivan Getting, the founding president of the Aerospace Corporation, had this incredible vision for a system of lighthouses in the sky. But here was the crucial breakthrough. Engineers designed a unique architecture using measurements from 4 separate satellites that completely eliminated the need for highly expensive atomic clocks in the ground receivers. By putting those massive clocks up in the satellites themselves, the ground devices could be shrunk way down. Without this one brilliant idea, GPS would have absolutely never fit inside your cell phone.
Section 3. Advancing the Architecture.
Right, so in 1973, Air Force Colonel Bradford Parkinson was given the huge task of synthesizing all of these early competing projects. His master blueprint basically combined the absolute best parts of Transit, Timitation, and 621B. This newly approved proposal laid out a passive, one-way ranging system made up of 24 satellites, all carrying those atomic clocks and placed in medium Earth orbits to give them a 12-hour period. This specific, highly precise architecture became the true foundation for the NAVSTAR system, which is the direct ancestor of the modern GPS we use today.
But getting the NAVSTAR satellite system fully operational was an incredibly rigorous process. We're talking relentless testing. Between 1977 and 1979 alone, aerospace engineers ran over 700 distinct tests on early developmental satellites, just to confirm the system's accuracy across the space, control, and user segments. But all that hard work paid off when NAVSTAR GPS officially became operational in 1990.
Section 4. From military to mainstream. So how did this military tech get to the mainstream? Well, in 1983, President Ronald Reagan actually authorized civilian airlines to use GPS to improve flight safety. However, there was a major catch. The government deliberately degraded the accuracy of the signals for everyday civilians through a policy called selective availability. But in the year 2000, the U.S. government officially ended that program. Literally overnight, like flipping a switch, GPS signals instantly became 10 times more accurate for non-military users.
And the hardware evolution that followed was just staggering. Check this out. Back in 1989, the Magellan NAV-1000 weighed 1.5 pounds, had notoriously terrible battery life, and cost an astronomical $3,000. Fast forward to the 2000s, right after the ended selective availability, and the price of a GPS processing chip absolutely plummeted to just $1.50. This massive cost reduction and extreme miniaturization meant that by 1999, GPS tech was seamlessly being fitted right into standard consumer cell phones.
Section 5. The Next Generation, GPS 3.
Now, to keep up with the exponential growth from both consumers and the military, this system couldn't just sit statically up in orbit. It needed constant upgrading. The original Block 2 satellites went through numerous iterations. By 2005, you actually had 5 completely different configurations orbiting the Earth at the same time, culminating in some heavily modernized models that finished launching by 2017. Because, maintaining a massive global utility like this requires absolutely relentless iteration.
And of course, this progression required a massive generational leap in our space infrastructure just to keep our modern world running smoothly.
Back in 1989, the very first operational GPS Block II launched on a Delta II rocket. Nearly 30 years later, the modern era truly arrived when the first completely new generation GPS-3 satellite launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in 2018.
Section 6. How GPS powers tomorrow. Today, GPS does vastly more than just draw a little blue line on your map app. Just to give you a sense of scale here, between 2007 and 2017, GPS-enabled location services helped American consumers save 52 billion gallons of fuel. It also prevented over 1 trillion unnecessary vehicle miles from being driven. That is huge. The environmental and efficiency benefits are simply staggering when you apply them across an entire population.
And it actually goes way beyond simple location data. We have to talk about PNT, which stands for positioning, navigation, and timing. GPS timing is literally the invisible pulse of the modern world. It is absolutely critical for synchronizing our massive data networks and authenticating our global financial systems. Scientists rely heavily on it to study earthquakes and tectonic plates, and farmers use it to perfectly optimize their water and pesticide distribution. It is deeply, deeply woven into the very fabric of global civilization.
So, I want to leave you with a provocative question to think about. How many times have you unknowingly relied on a satellite today? Seriously, from unlocking your phone to tapping your card for a coffee, those lighthouses in the sky are always up there, quietly working in the background. If you found this explainer as fascinating as I did, definitely drop a comment below and let me know your answer. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.